Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. We are on episode 8 of Tales from the Abyss. Now this one might be a little long, guys. I'm going to give you a warning now. This is a accumulation of, bringing it all together from 3 weeks of locals. Well, 3 locals altogether. I think it's technically 2 weeks because we had Friday the 24th, Friday the 10th, which are a week apart, and then Monday the 4th at my locals. We are going to start. This is 3 locals. A lot of playtesting went done over the weekend, over the course of those 3 events. We were at Prodigy Games twice. We were able to go twice back to back, and then I think we didn't have a locals on Monday. I couldn't go to one. It would have been 4, but then I had to skip what it would have been the 4, 5, 6, 7. It would have been the 27th. That's why there wasn't a video last week. You only got the locals video. But yeah, that's where we are right now. We'll be going back to regularly publishing on Wednesdays these videos. I should be going to every locals for the foreseeable future at the time, but yeah. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to try to keep them into 10-minute segments. This one's going to be short right here. This first one, I'll leave them labeled for you guys too in the description. So on the 24th, we went to Prodigy Games, and this is what we took. We took, I wanted to test out the ideas that you guys shared with me before, and the water light version seemed super interesting to me, and so that's kind of what we went with. We had the Materias, the Onion Knights, the Citra, the Lena. And nothing else pretty much changed. I think the Zidane was in the... Oh, and the Shinryu. The Shinryu was a weird, test I wanted to do with the Materia. Because, realistically, I was hoping to build backups and, open Materia in hand. And dropping a Shinryu on a turn where my opponent, develops enough board is a big deal. So I don't have to search him. I can just, play him from the Materia. Shinryu is a great card. At least that's how I started thinking about this. But it's not for every matchup. So more oftentimes than not, I find him dead now. I thought it would be a decent, counter. Not even a counter. A decent, tech for a Versatile deck. But it wasn't. All their costs are 5 and 4. And maybe you hit the nail. But that's about it. Oh, and 7, right, with the Sephiroths and the Umarus, I think, if they're playing that version. But yeah, so this really does, and then even for the monks too, Yang and Matt, if Versatile is out, she just eats them and then hits you for stuff. So it doesn't really work. I'm not saying it's a bad card. It's probably better for Weewa, against the Weewa matchups. They usually live in that realm of 3s and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm indifferent about this card because when it's used against me, for some reason, it always is devastating. Maybe I need to start building more conscientiously about him. The matchups were a little interesting this week. So I've also found out that Monofire absolutely crushes us. There's footage of this on, I believe it's on that. If you look at I'll probably leave it in the description too for you, or I'll leave a tab or whatever. You can look at the locals. Video. It's me and Tacos going at it back to back. I think it's a few rounds, a few games, and yeah. No matter how many cards I draw, I don't have hard answers for Braska, like BFA, and the Alua is just crushing. Even with the Minwu and the Cecil reduction and the Leviathan, none of that matters because of the Chu Chaspo or whatever it's called, the one that says your damage cannot be reduced this turn. It's just devastating. We just have nothing. At the very least, I'm able to... with the Remora, I can maybe kill a BFA, but I need to have full backups, Yuna out, and full grip. Or even more. I need to draw into 6 or 7, right? I can send him back to your hand, maybe, but it's still not good enough. He's just going to play it again and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I like, as much as I like water right now, mono water, it's very good against some of the other things, like I said, monks and Doga and stuff. But when you're still losing to Versatile and now mono fire, in those weird senses, those decks are too common for me to say that mono water is very good in the meta. In my opinion, now it's moved from potentially 2.5, I guess, to just a 2, maybe even less. it's still good. Jet is strong. All of these cards are really great, but it just gets outshined by enough of those new big cards. Especially so Mobius is a tough one too, right? Because the Mobius deck. Oh, I think that's what happened too. I played some extra games on the 24th against the Mobius deck. We do good. The Shinryu does stop that, right? It stops the X Death. It stops the wool, but it doesn't deal with the Braska. And so realistically, as soon as they drop the Braska, we're kind of done, and it's not good for us. I don't know if you guys have this problem. All my water players out there, let me know. Let's talk about it. I'll let you guys know what I'm going on to in the next part. So, all right. The other deck I took for me for that day was Vaantastic. This is the deck I took to Nationals, but this is an Opus 14 version. There are a few changes I made here, it's really just I took out the Zargabaths because Zargabath can't play any of the multicolors if they share ice. So I just it's not good enough. This was better before, but it's a tricolor list that revolves around the Vaughn and the Alcid kind of being able to play like multiple forwards throughout the turn. There's also the plays of the Hope and Zeromus like Dream. If you drop Zeromus and you have Hope at the end of your opponent's turn when all his forwards dull, they'll be frozen as well. So it's just like a double whammy there for you. Yeah, that's pretty much part of it. The Alua's there, the Barts are there to end games, the Zidane's there to make sure they don't drop what they need to. Renoa's obviously there to replay stuff like the Vaughn and the Alcid. And then we have the Chocobo Chivalries and the Bahamut Zeros. I think what I ended up doing was taking out the triple Zargabath, adding one Adele, another Bahamut Zero, and then I think it was another Sage or something, another backup just to kind of fix it. The forwards are pretty set in stone. The Stern is actually very strong in this list too. I think the tricolored is just too much. I took it with me the week after with the same changes I made, and it still tests decent, right? If I'm able to get, I have. Well, we'll talk about that one in a sec. But yeah, the list is fun. It's not what it used to be. It still gets a little outshined, but these cards are very strong. Stern, Alcid, and Zeromus. Vaughn is still good, but if you're not at 5, crushing, dropping 2 forwards at once, it can be a little underwhelming now. Before dropping 2 forwards and then giving things haste with the Alba and the Alua. Alba and Diana and Alua and stuff like that, it was a lot more dangerous. And so, yeah. But, again, that's the wrap-up for Week 1. We're going to transition into Week 2 now. Okay, so what I was mentioning about the mono water deck also is that I was able to do the Onion Knight thing with Leviathan, and it is really strong. The only problem with that is that it's just getting there, man. And getting there, I feel like takes too long for mono water. But that's it. We can move on from those previous lists. This is what we had on week 2. This was the 10th. It was Friday as well at Prodigy Games. This is me already deciding I'm I'm fed up with Versatile and all those other decks. So we built this. Now it's pretty much Sophie.deck from the previous set, but now we added all the 14 cards. I always forget we're on set 14. We're Opus 14 cards that are important, like the Lakshmi, the Titans, and now we have Kobolds and stuff like that. It's all pretty much the old same deck, right? I like to play the Nicole's, gives you the edge. It's like when you play any of the banners to buff up in Monks and a Cross or stuff like that, or Lulu in your Lightning decks. He does the same thing, and he gives me that extra draw. The triple Sarah Mobius is very important. Obviously Sophie, and I tested out with double Yuna. I didn't use it too often. I usually more so used it as a draw engine, I guess, but it was still very good. Gabranth, just to search all my big pieces. 2 Ursula, 2 Lakshmi, triple Lena to reborn any of these. Triple Regis, Titan, and Kusith. The main thing here is just, get big and shoot them for damage and stuff and draw cards. What feels nice, I took it a step further, right? I had a conversation with some other players and talking about Tenzin and Lakshmi and how you're drawing 3 cards per turn, right? So I took it even further and I went, I'm going to try to draw 4 cards per turn regularly. And with Sophie and Lakshmi, you're able to do that. Obviously, it takes a little bit of setup, but a little less than you might think, right? So as long as you have Lakshmi and Sophie out, she's at 6. You can play the Sarah, and you're at 10, right? You also have other ways to buff now. You have Koblo, Div Titans out, Princess Sarah, and Tyro, and that helps out. And Nicole, right? And just helps you get there for some of your other stuff. Very important. Now, how many times did I draw four cards a turn? Several. It happens more often than I thought it would, and it's very nice. Sometimes you're drawing extra cards per turn, right? Because you have the Sarah Mobius come in with the Nicole. That whole synergy, you're drawing 4 to 5, maybe 6 cards a turn at the most. You draw 2, draw 1 from this, draw 1 from this, draw 1 from here, and draw 1 from here. That's the max, right? It's insane. So you have to manage your resources a little bit better in this deck, and so that's what that's for. Also, good things is the other combos in this deck were playing the Titan, clearing your board, and then playing the Regis. It's a little tougher, but that's why we added the Noctis. The Noctis is there to secure those plays. It's actually pretty insane. I've only done it like maybe 2 to 3 times in the span of 2 weeks, or the span of 2 locals, right? Total maybe 8 hours of playing. I'm able to swing out with the Sophie, right? Or not even. Sophie's not even there. It's usually Lena, Lakshmi, and maybe a Sarah or something to draw in case, because I don't have the Sophie yet for whatever reason. That's really the only problem I had with this deck. Sometimes I never got the Sophie because I usually, like, your first turn search is usually for the Titan or the Lakshmi, depending where you are, and then you kind of just filter through the rest of them. I kind of want to add the 4-drop Ikali, I don't know what his name is, to search for a multicolored character, and that would help a little bit. But anyway, when you have Lena, Lakshmi, and anything else, really, anything under 9k pretty much, right? And your opponent has the same thing, you're able to Titan, buff with Sarah, kill anything 9k or not, or anything under 10k usually, and you are then going to play Regis. Regis will get you back the Lena and the Lakshmi. Lena will bring back the Sarah or the Sophie, and then you're good for another turn. Then you, and I know you're thinking like, wow, that's a lot of cards, right? Well, it is, but remember, you're gonna get back all your forwards. You're gonna draw 2 cards at the end of the turn, and then your following turn you're drawing 2 extra cards. So you're pretty much recovering all your CP in one turn. Why I built this, mainly so I can play triple Titan, triple Toto. I only own 2 Totos, so I kept it at 2. And I found that it's very useful. Now, my matchups that week were Mono Fire versus Tail and Mono Wind. We went undefeated as opposed to the last week where we lost to the Mono Fire. We ended up second place in that one. We went first place in this one. And then we jammed a few more games, and the deck tested really well. We also, things, I'll go over the changes I made in a second, but it does well against the monks as well. It does well against, I guess the monks at that time were a little, this was the first version of this list I brought out. It has a few flex picks. In the second version, I took out one Nicole, took out the Yunas and the Gabranth, added another Ursula. I think I cut a Regis, and just looked. I messed around with a few cards, but that's usually your flex picks, right? You have Nicole, the Yunas and the Gabranths, and maybe one Regis, and then your summon choices are up to you. I don't think I'll be keeping the Leviathans. I think I need fight spells for this deck a little bit more, so I'm gonna probably turn these into Hecatons. It's just a nice way to draw more cards. I would even put I could even just put Remoras in here and stuff like that, but nah. I also wanted to kind of make it more EX bursty, so I wanted to do the Larsa, but in order for me to fit the Larsa, we have to cut the Regis thing out, which I wasn't too big on. I really like the Titan into the Regis plays. You just get all your forwards back usually, so. But yeah, this deck showed a lot of promise, so I kept playing this. The changes I made to Vaantastic are these. I added triple Conjura, which is a great card. Usually the reason you play this card is because the deck stays at 2 to 3 backups. It never gets more. If it does, the game might be going a little too long, but that's okay. And at which point you start pitching her, right? I've never gotten to use the Tempest Spellblade, but the haste for 9K seems really good at two backups on turn two, right? Um, I added the Adele. This was the Alvin Diana package. This was from the original deck as well. I found it a lot more useful than what we had. We had the Maya, the Zeromus is still there, and then these cards as well. I cut out all the other summons. They were just useless, really. We're not going for like cheeky like returns and replays and stuff like that, as well as the chivalry and discarding. It's not. It is go big, go wide, attack 6 times, right, or attack 5 times, and then chaos to supplement colors. I added instead. I took out the devout and a few other things to make space for this, just so I can have 2 colors off the bat with 1 backup. I really there's a world where I hope that there is more backups that are of different colors that just pair up for different decks, right? Like this is the wind ice deck. All right, I get it, but now I need a wind lightning deck or a card that generates both of those colors, and a fire earth one that generates both of those colors, or a water earth or something like that, or a water ice even that generates both those colors, right? I hope they'll eventually give us those. That's a nice sentiment, but who knows? But yeah, the Herdy's there to get you characters. You're only gonna whiff if you see this guy. So, and then to recur the Aluas, Sids, and Gramuses to make sure you get your Alcids and your Vans, Altheas. This was the only one that I'm still thinking I'll probably cut, but and then Sages to recur and stuff. The list is still fun. It definitely played a lot better with these changes I made. It was a little more consistent with the backups and the colors and stuff. It's still a little rough, but I don't know. Let me think. What else happened that week? Yeah, nothing. We just jammed a bunch of games. It was fun. If you guys are ever in town, remember to be sure to hit us up at PBG or Prodigy Games. We got a lot of players out here now, so it's really nice. We can move on to week 3 now. So 1 second. All right, and this was this past Monday. I didn't forget to mention that I brought a mono win list with me over the week as well, just to mess around. I haven't dived into this color too much. This was the first version, right? We had triple Zidane, triple Shola, triple Dancers, Vara, Dorian, Mid, Sin, Bartz, Bismarck, Shinryu, Fina, Garudas. Summons are pretty simple, just to cover a couple of different bases. The Miyuns, the White Mage, Fiona, and then the FFCC package kind of here. It's pretty straightforward. The main combos from this are being able to drop 2 Dancers at once, tap them, and I actually learned this from one of our local players. That's why it's called For Tongzi. His name is Tongzi, and he played Mono Wind here the first time coming out. So he showed me this too. You drop 2 of these in one turn. If your opponent is unable to answer, they will be dealing 8k to your opponent's board every turn. Very very nice, very subtle. Along with stuff like Bismarck, you can clear bigger things. I just have the Vatas. I also saw this and thought of this. I thought of this a long time ago. Then I saw it played it somewhere, or at least I saw that it was in a list somewhere. So I thought it might have held some ground on its own. But being able to recur the backups and steal your opponent's forwards is a very nice thought. So I thought the Dorgan would be cool. The mids and the Sin, and then just big guys. Bartz, Bismarck, Fina, and Garuda, and 1 Shinryu. Again, I'm still messing with the Shinryu. We don't really see Omega too much, which I might even go to instead. But the Shinryu still seems like a good idea. But then, what's the other one? Yeah, that's about it, really. There was a few changes I did. So this was week 2. Week 3, I ended up taking out the Dorgans and the Shinryu, adding a Lena, and let me think. I have it right here. It wasn't much. It was just a couple of kind of like a quality of life changes, really, just so I can navigate the deck a little bit better. Oh, and the Typhons. Actually, the Typhons are missing from this one. But yeah, there was triple Typhon in both versions. The deck's pretty simple. Once you get going, being able to recur Zidane, Miyun, and all of the characters is just really nice. It just ramps up fast enough too. You can get there with the Ixalis out anytime you play Bismarck or Garuda. You're getting at least 2 CP back usually, because I always run into this 2 of them. The White Mages are there to start removing stuff. So being able to recur the White Mages with Bismarck is nice too for certain decks. For the Doga or monks or anything like that. Anything like that recurs forwards like Garland. It's just really good. and you don't need, and then you can always have it to sack it in case they have, you know, unless when they play something on their turn after you play the card or whatever. Uh, but yeah, I brought it. It was fun. It tested well. It does good on its own. I don't know where I would take this deck. I'm pretty sure I'm going to dismantle all three of these decks, like the Vaantastic, the Water, the King is Returned, and then this one for whatever I decide to do next week. Um, but you know, the meta's changing. The meta's not changing too much anymore until I think we are on the 6th. One time this airs and records, then the 22nd is when the starters come out. That 14.5 meta is going to be very strong, and things are going to change a lot. So I'm going to try to adapt to that as soon as we can, maybe a little early too. Changes I made to this too. This was what I was talking about. I took out one Nicole, added a Porum, added another Ursula, added the Kryl, added an Arden, right? We also took out a couple other things to make space here. There's a few, I had to organize a few things here and there, but as you can see, most of the deck is still the same. We took out the Yunas and the Gabranth, and that's where these two came in, and the other Ursula. Arden, I didn't even like this card. I'm going to take it right out, but this was just in case the Regis never happened. I could bring something back with Noctis as well. And I can just play him on his own, and he kind of holds his own for a bit. I like the idea that he reborns himself, and so I always technically have something for them to deal with, but I'd rather just play the 7-drop and have that take away cards from your opponent for sure, right? I love the 7-drop Arden. Anyway, yeah, this deck still did as good as I had liked it to. Things I didn't need, I don't really need the Porum. I'd rather play something else. The Arden definitely took out. Triple Ursula was much better. The only problem I still had was sometimes not finding the Sophie, so we added the Sildras, and that still didn't help. The Cooch was a very important add. I took out the Leviathans for that instead. The Tama was to threaten the Regis on your opponent's turn, as opposed to playing the Noctis and threatening it on my turn. Yeah, it's just really nice. The deck still plays really well. Unfortunately, my matchups this week were double versus tail. Where's it? I had it right here. Double versus tail, monks, and then lightning ice. Lightning ice was actually round 1 was a really tough matchup. When you have those stupid cards, the one that doesn't let you, if you search, you have to discard, and then if your auto abilities don't trigger, your enter the field abilities don't trigger. That's pretty much this whole deck, right? Auto ability, enter ability, enter ability, enter ability, enter. So playing out of it was tough. I had to hard summon Ursula with no value. Had to hard summon Sophie with no use that to shoot. Oh no, what was it that I did? I was at 5 damage because it took a while, right? We had to pump Ursula with Tyro and Princess Sarah to kill the Sid Randell. I shot the Sophie. I had to reborn the Sophie with Lena, shoot the Remedy, and then proceed to go through the game like that. Thankfully, I had answers throughout the beginning of the match, like the Mist Dragons and the Cooch, to kind of deal with his recursion, and Zeromus, I think, helped one turn, but still, it was very annoying. I don't know why people don't do that. I get they're weak and they're a little underwhelming, but those cards are really strong, and I think if someone can figure that out, that's probably a very good anti-meta deck. The Fenrir I don't see too much use for right now, but then again, I'm not playing, it's a lot of variety sometimes, so we left it at 1. Yeah, that's about it. I didn't add the Versailles or whatever to find this because we added the Sildra and we had a few more draw and searches and stuff. But the deck is still good. I really like this deck. I'll probably keep it to compete, but I'm gonna try something else entirely. The Verstale matchups are a lot better, right? And that was my biggest problem for the last couple of weeks. Again, I don't mind tightening a board or Shantotoing a board. If you guys see my Twitter page, that one of those matchups were so painful. The 2 times I decided to let damage go through, sometimes in your head you're thinking, I'm going to let damage go through no matter what, right? That's your game plan. But then there's times where you find yourself like, oh no, I have this weird feeling that the next one matters, and so I shouldn't block. I should block because I can't let him get these cards, right? I don't know why, right? Like just you do the numbers in your head, right? You searched a bunch, you've gotten stuff out, you know what you haven't seen, right? This was going through my head, and then it's like, oh, sure enough, there's the Shantotto, and then on like two damage later, there's the other Shantotto, and I'm just like, okay. We still got out of that one, luckily for us. But the other game was almost a non-game. I didn't see. I only able to search one Titan, and I saw 0 Totos, and like nothing lined up for me. Right, like I never got. I should have got Lakshmi, I think, to draw more. That's another situation that like I found myself in. Your first searches are very important. I usually have my regular in this deck anyway. Right, my thought is search the Titan, threaten the Titan early. That way they don't go wide and, whatever, right? But it's also, if you're in a good spot, you should search the Lakshmi first and stay ahead. So both of those are like my main turn one searches, like when I'm tyroing or, the Kolka or whatever, or like pretty much those two. But if you're Sildring also, right? Obviously the Kolka doesn't get you the Lakshmi, but the Tyro does, and then the Sildra doesn't get you the Titan, but the Sildra does. So it's just a weird thing, man. I think going forward for this deck, just try those flex picks that I mentioned a few like just a little bit ago. That in this case it would be the Porum, the Cryo, the Arden, the extra Ursula, maybe the Regis. Maybe I'll take out one Regis this time, and leave that a little like on the back end or whatever. And then just mess around with cards, find whatever works a little bit better. Something else that draws, something else that searches. The Sophie, or like there's a card that searches Toto other than Star Sybil, which I'm not gonna do, but you know how it is, guys. Anyway, these are the decks. This is what I've been up to this week. I don't ask you guys enough. What have you been playing? How was your locals? Are you guys like dominating locals? I got 5th place, by the way, because I lost to one Versatile, and then I lost to Monks, which I think is all in all a favorable matchup for me. But sometimes when you got it, man. Shout out to my local Monk players, and they're just the way they play. I also thought about adding like a few side monks into this, because drawing the Ursula when you don't have Sophie in grave or in break zone is just like pointless almost sometimes, right? So maybe adding a few A monk backup or whatever. I don't know. The one that buffs really the 3K and brave, and it just like helps everybody else. But yeah. Again, let me know what you guys are playing. Let me know what's the biggest thing at your locals, please. Like what everyone's winning with, or what people are like topping with and stuff like that. Let's talk about some of that. As always, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys next week. Please make sure to check out both locals videos. And yeah, we got a lot. Next week we're gonna do a news episode to cover all the stuff we haven't talked about, like sets and the the live stream that we did for the watch party, and some stuff. Spoilers week is starting next week as well, so look forward to Card of the Weeks again. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.